They can be an underlying cause of chronic infection. I'm sure many of you have been in that situation where you have urinary tract infection and you take an antibiotic.
Hello and welcome to the Fusionary Health Podcast. It's me, your host, Dr. Shivani Gupta, and I have an incredible guest in store for you today, Dr. Sharon Stills, and she is a powerhouse. I have always loved her work, how she teaches it. I was recently on her Mastering the Menopause Summit, and I'm so happy to have you on the podcast, Sharon. Welcome.
Thank you. I feel the same about you. I'm like, part of the fun about, sharing and educating online is you get to meet other women doing the same thing, and then you become friends, and it's just a beautiful thing. So we all win. The audience wins, we win, everyone wins, and I love win-wins.
I agree. I totally agree. So let's kick off with what is naturopathic medicine? Because a lot of times people have no idea, just like they don't even know what Ayurveda is. So let's kick off there.
Well, naturopathic medicine is a specific discipline, so very different than allopathic medicine or functional medicine. It really, when I was deciding what kind of doctor do I want to be, my issue is always like, I love everything. Traditional Chinese medicine is cool. Herbs are cool. Chiropractic is cool. Mind body medicine is cool. This is cool. That is cool. Ayurveda is cool. And then I stumbled upon this naturopathic medicine, which basically encompasses all of those things while being trained as an actual primary care physician. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to go do that because that covers it all. Now, so naturopathic medicine is based on philosophy. We talk about the vis, which is the natural healing power within us. And so often it's not what you need. It's what you need to release or unblock to harness your own internal innate natural healing. We treat patients as individuals. So root cause medicine is very popular now, and it's really a naturopathic philosophy. We look at constitution. So we treat patients individuals. So we incorporate functional medicine, but we're a lot deeper than functional medicine, which can borderline on allopathic, just replacing an herb for a medication or a pharmaceutical. And so we're a lot more broad and open-minded. That being said, naturopathic medicine, the profession as a whole, has some issues. And so a lot of the schools now teach more allopathically. And so some of their first line of defense is teaching naturopathic medical students to use antibiotics. And for something like urinary tract infection or a cough. And if you are trained adequately as a naturopathic physician, then I've been practicing for 23 years, and I've treated everything from acute COVID nowadays to pneumonia, to erysipelas, to every itis, tonsillitis, strep throat. And I've never needed to use antibiotics because I understand how the terrain works and I have tools in my toolbox. And so it's disheartening because, and I'm not saying, there's time and place for everything, right? And if you're working with someone and they don't have the tools and you need an antibiotic, that's a different story. But antibiotics create what's called cell wall deficient forms. And so, or they create superbugs, they create problems. They create gut disruption, and cell wall deficient forms, just to explain what that is, because that's not a commonly heard thing, is when the antibiotic strips the cell wall off the bacteria. And the cell wall is where the receptor sites are for the immune system to flag and help discard the bacteria. So now these cell wall deficient forms are not able to be recognized by our immune system, and then they can burrow deeper. They are often an underlying cause of autoimmune disease. They can be an underlying cause of chronic infection. I'm sure many of you have been in that situation where you have urinary tract infection and you take an antibiotic and then you get better for a day and then you get sick again and then and you get in this vicious cycle. And so, so not all naturopaths, unfortunately, are created equal. You do want to find a naturopath who actually went to a 4-year accredited school and is an actual doctor licensed to prescribe. I have a DEA license. So we are primary care physicians, but then there's a lot of how are you trained and what are you practicing? One of my biggest focus, one of the things I'm known for is the treatment of women's health and using bioidentical hormones and helping women through perimenopause and menopause. And all of that, I didn't learn in naturopathic medical school. I actually learned it when I graduated.
Yeah. Yeah, oftentimes we learn these things after. So it's about where are you continuing that education into new areas and into new depths. It's almost like a fellowship in a new topic, right? It's interesting when it comes to naturopathic school. I just think that most people haven't heard of it. It's interesting how many people I meet who think all doctors are MDs. I'm like, no, there's MD school and there's DO school. There's 2 categories there. There's naturopathic school. And what most people don't realize is in many states, your naturopathic doctor can prescribe. In Florida, I don't believe you can. I think that a lot of states are pushing naturopaths out of the state, pushing them out of the ability to practice because they just don't understand it or they don't respect it or there's lots of reasons.
They're actually, they're threatened because, the American Medical Association wants to control everything and they're not as concerned with how you're feeling and are you healthy and do you have options so you can decide, right? Because who am I? If you want to go to a mainstream doctor and get an antibiotic and be on pharmaceuticals, like that's your choice, but they don't want to give you choice. They don't want to give you a choice to do something that may be outside of their scope. And so it's quite sad because we really don't have health care. We have disease care, we have insurance care, we have sick care, we have pharmaceutical care. And so that is, and we are licensed, I've kind of lost count, but at least half the states, if not maybe closer to 30, our licensing differs from state to state. So where I am in Arizona, we have the best scope. We can do anything and everything, and we do, and that's part of why I'm here. Also, the lack of winter doesn't hurt, but so it just really varies. And so again, if you're looking for a naturopathic doctor, you need to interview them, and you want to make sure that you're seeing someone who's actually a physician, because there are, we call them ND online mills, where you can, go for a few months and then claim in a state that's not licensed that you're a naturopathic doctor. And that's very misleading to the general public because reading a book and taking an online test does not make you a physician.
For sure, no.
So that's an important point to know.
Okay, well, my next question is, I'm loving that we're creating awareness about naturopathic medicine in general, since people don't know about it. And as you were speaking about it, I remembered as a child, when we were looking for doctors, we had a pediatrician who we would go to a lot. But the pediatrician's main solution for me was antibiotics, which honestly is why I teach what I teach, because I took way too many antibiotics as a child.
Same.
But at some point, my parents were introduced to a naturopathic physician who had a completely different approach with me. It was supplements, it was conversations about gut. And I think we probably should have followed that road down further, would have changed the trajectory of my life, but we just didn't. I think maybe my parents were busy. It wasn't the quick solution, and we just kind of moved on. And I probably was not a compliant patient, which sometimes I'm not one. But when we're talking about naturopathics, I have met so many wonderful practitioners. And I remember when my daughter was young, I had a diagnosis with her, and I thought, I know who I'm going to call. I know from the Ayurvedic perspective how I would approach this, but I want another practitioner who's symbiotic to my thinking, who's also going to watch the project with me because I'm the mother, so it's too personal. And so I hired a naturopathic practitioner who's local, and we were so aligned in our thinking. And I thought, gosh, we are like parallel sciences, parallel understandings. So will you share a little bit more about some of the main tenets of naturopathic medicine that you use in your everyday practice?
Sure. And I definitely interweave a lot of other disciplines. So I've dipped into Ayurveda. I love Ayurveda, traditional Chinese medicine, and I do a lot of bioregulatory or terrain-based medicine, which is what I learned over in Europe, in Switzerland and Germany mainly. And so I one believe in a terrain-based philosophy. And so a good example is strep throat,
Hmm.
because most people go, "Oh, there's a bug, let's kill it."
Sure.
And these bugs actually live within us all the time. We are more bacteria than we are human cells, right? We're this big giant walking bag of bacteria, and we've got some human cells spotted in there. And so strep actually lives in our throat. It's a symbiont. It's just when our terrain gets out of balance that it can go through what's known as a pleomorphic process, which means it changes form, think like caterpillar, butterfly, and then it becomes pathogenic. Then it becomes, ow, this is no fun, and I have a sore throat. And so I approach things by looking at the terrain. What's going on in the terrain? Is there emotional stress, physical stress, chemical stress, stress we can't see, internal endogenous stress? What's happening? Is the pH off? Is there a mineral deficiency? Is there a fatty acid deficiency? Is there toxicity happening? All of these different things. Is flow off? Is the fascia constricted? Is the lymph congealing? What's happening that the terrain is out of balance, that a bug is proliferating and causing symptoms? So I don't think of, oh, it's the same when I'm working with someone dealing with a cancer diagnosis. Modern medicine says, oh, attack and kill the tumor. We're going to cut it out, we're going to radiate it, or we're going to chemo. And that's like their solution. And I'm looking at the microenvironment that allowed the tumor to grow, that a tumor said, oh, this looks like a comfy place to set up shop. And so I'm looking at what's happening in the body, and I'm not just looking physically, I'm looking emotionally, energetically, spiritually. I'm looking at all the realms, because all the realms affect us. And so a sore throat can be because you're not sleeping, can be because you're not speaking your truth, can be, it can be so many different things. And so where a lot of times people are just told there's no hope, we tried this medicine and it didn't work, and now we don't really know what to do for you. It's probably in your head. So here's an antidepressant. I have the other issue where my job is to go, oh my gosh, there's like 37 different reasons this can be occurring, and we're not going to go after all of them. And that's why case taking is so important. I spend at least an hour, hour and a half with a new patient, intaking them to really learn all about them, from their emotional state to their medical history to what's currently going on, to really understand who they are and why this imbalance is expressing itself.
Absolutely. And you mentioned oncology cancer there. You're right. A lot of times we're playing a game of whack-a-mole. That when I watch people's health trajectories, by the time they find someone who teaches Ayurveda or naturopathic, I'm sure they have already gone down the road. Like I think of all the integrative modalities. You started in Western medicine, and a lot of times people say, you know what? Thank you. Thank you. You have solutions. Some of those solutions don't sound like they're for me. I need to go research some more. And you go to chiropractic sometimes, you go down your list. I really wish we had a naturopathic medicine, Ayurvedic medicine perspective first, traditional Chinese medicine as well. I love all of the ancient wisdoms because they have like the preventive lifestyle baked into what we're teaching. But when it comes to oncology, it feels like whack-a-mole because let's say someone has cancer and you treated it. Okay, if you didn't change terrain, guess what's coming a year, 2 years, 3 years down the line? And guess the one thing that someone who has had cancer fears the most? It coming back. And so, really, how are we really serving that person who's now living in this state of fight or flight and total fear around, oh, I hope this doesn't happen again. I just can't do this again. I certainly can't go through that treatment plan again. And yet, we haven't addressed terrain. And so will you talk about that? And I've never heard of bioregulatory medicine out of Switzerland and Germany. So will you explain a little bit more about that as well?
Sure. So European biological medicine, when I was a naturopathic medical student back in the late 90s, I noticed, there were some really good doctors in town, and they're doing something different than just straight naturopathic medicine. So I was like, what are they doing? Because I want to know how to do that. And so what I learned was a lot of them were using these pleomorphic products, these Sanum remedies. And I was like, oh, this is cool. And this comes from Germany. So long story short, I started working for the Sanum company. I started teaching and lecturing to doctors around the country about terrain-based medicine while I was still a medical student and started studying over in Switzerland. And so some of the things I learned 25 years ago have made their way more to the States, like neurotherapy and the acknowledgement of scars and how they impact our nervous system, the microbiome. Like, it wasn't talked about 25 years ago like we were talking about it in Europe that it is now. And so dentistry is a big, in Europe, the clinics that I've worked with, the dentist, it's all under one roof, and you actually see the dentist, the biological dentist, before you see the doctor, because it's hard for a doctor to get good success if the mouth is a mess. And about 70% of focal infections or blockages are happening in your oral cavity, whether it's from a cavitation or a root canal or metals or galvanic currents. And so a lot of people now here in the States understand the biological dentistry, but it's still just like they understand it, but they don't really do anything about it. But like when patients come to me, especially of chronic illness, pretty much they're going to the dentist if they haven't already handled that. And biological dentistry is a whole nother podcast, because we could totally
Absolutely.
go down that rabbit hole. But I'm really looking at, are we opening the scars? Are we cleaning up the mouth? Are we looking? So functional medicine doesn't really pay attention to bioenergetics, doesn't pay attention to light or sound or color or emotions or trauma. And it certainly doesn't pay attention to constitution. And, I know you can appreciate constitution doing a lot of Ayurveda. And so one man or woman's poison is another man or woman's gold. And so what works for me may not work for you. And so we need to look at constitution. We need to look at regulation. Just throwing supplements is not a really fulfilling treatment healing plan. That being said, if you were in my kitchen over there, you'd see, like, I'm a big fan of supplements. I take a lot of them, so I'm not dissing supplements, but a lot of alternative medicine is what I referred to before. It's just like green allopathic medicine. So it's better, right? Like, it's better to take golden seal to help as an antibacterial with some Oregon grape and some myrrh and some allicin and all the things. But that's just giving something and not thinking about the whole body, the whole terrain, the person in front of you, their constitution. And so that's a big difference. We are looking at many different planes. And yes, giving things is important, but often not the first step. Often using what we call drainage remedies to drain and take some of the stress and the toxins and the dysregulation out of organ systems, out of the extracellular matrix, which is where health truly begins and ends. So mitochondria is having its day, right? Everyone's talking about the mitochondria, and we love me some mitochondria, maternal DNA, energetics, love that. Love the cell danger response, but this is all happening in the extracellular matrix where we're really getting the communication from the external environment terrain to our mitochondria. And so just think of it as like the soup where your cells are swimming. And so a common analogy is the goldfish in the goldfish bowl. And you can keep taking the goldfish out, but if you don't clean the water, they're just going to keep dying. So the extracellular matrix is the water in your goldfish bowl, and that needs to be addressed. That is the crux of our terrain.
Hi, I'm Dr. Shivani Gupta, and I created Fusionary Formulas because I believe everyone deserves a natural way to support their body's health. If you struggle with joint discomfort or stiffness, our turmeric gold delivers powerful curcumin in a form your body can truly absorb. It's science-backed with the highest quality ingredients and designed to support your body's natural inflammatory response. Take the next step in your health and wellness journey today. Visit fusionaryformulas.com and use code FusionaryHealth for 15% off. Fusionary Formulas, ancient wisdom, modern science, maximum impact. I love two things there. I love everything you teach, honestly. You and I could talk for hours all day and I could just listen. But it's so interesting what you mentioned about functional medicine, because I'm such a fan of functional medicine. And I every time I see a client, I'm like, you need functional medicine. I shift them over. I'm like, you need diagnostics and some treatment. And then I will bring you the Ayurveda piece of this puzzle. But I'm not comfortable knowing what you've got going on. I can already tell what the diagnostics will say. So let me send you that way to get those answers first. And I thought of becoming a functional medicine practitioner myself, but it's going to be too much time for what I have going on right now. But hearing you say that, it actually really landed for me. There's many of us, I would say, women, ambitious, driven, focused, educated, who are having moments in our health, glimmers, years in our health, where the answer is like, I don't know what's happening, but let me go get some answers. And we go to functional medicine, and then you go into all the fun testing, and it's enlightening, right? Your DNA test, all these things tell you a lot. And you're like, oh, it's leaky gut. It's these things. And functional medicine has some solutions. It does. They're great supplements. They're great tools. But you're right. As someone who's coming at it from the Ayurvedic lens, I can see that there's these pieces around that structure that are missing, that aren't fulfilling the mission. Because the mission is truly whole health, full body health. And so if you don't bring in spiritual, emotional, mental, past traumas, all these things, the energetics, in Ayurveda and naturopathic and Chinese medicine, we have the meridians flow. In Ayurveda, we have constitutions, we have Panchakarma, the first thing we do to everybody. So I'm always like, why is it not enough? Why is it not enough? Why is it not working enough? It's doing a great job. But there's just one more layer, that layer deeper that I'm craving. And so I'm so glad you kind of went into that, because it's like a yearning and a craving for answers. And I think sometimes functional medicine tries to talk about it. They're like, actually, I think this is a parasympathetic. I think this is high cortisol. I think this is high stress. I think you need to calm down. Here's the lifestyle things. And I think many of us, once we're going to functional, we're actually asking for that pill for a problem type solution. And we won't make space for the rest, because we're like, well, just solve the problem. Obviously, if I had time, I would do all that lifestyle crap. So it's interesting, because that's who I see it come to me. And I'm always like, how do I help you with that? Who is the right team? And so you see people coming out with programs around it right now, for that other piece of the whole puzzle. And so how do you look at that, and how do you approach it? Because I think there are missing pieces. Like, is there a partnership there?
Yeah, and there are things that I do that would be considered functional medicine. I really feel like functional medicine has a good PR, and it's disappointing that naturopathic medicine didn't get as good a PR, because naturopathic medicine or biological medicine incorporates that, but so much more. It's why I have patients fly in from all over the globe who maybe have seen 10 functional medicine practitioners. And a lot of functional medicine, in kudos, like you were trained allopathically and you're like, no, there's got to be more. So you move over into functional medicine, but a lot of times you bring your allopathic mindset with you. So naturopathic doctors, European biological medicine, we have a very different mindset. And a lot of functional medicine, they're like, okay, well, you have an infection, so we'll try the herb. But if it doesn't work in 2 days, here's the prescription for the antibiotic.
Yeah.
And I trust my toolbox. I trust my medicine. I trust my patient's ability to heal. And so that doesn't happen when I'm prescribing. I don't need that plan B. And then what happens, a lot of people say, yeah, well, alternative medicine works if you have like a sniffle, but for the real serious stuff, you still need the medication. And that's
Yeah.
just not true. So we've moved. I mean, I've been practicing for 23 years, and prior to that, I was a traditional Chinese medicine worker, so acupuncture, aromatherapy. I studied iridology with Bernard Jensen, totally dating myself here. For those of you that know him, like the original colon cleanser guy. I was a colon hydrotherapist. I was a nutritionist. So I've been doing this. I'm 57 and I've been doing this since I had my awakening, because I was like, when you were talking, I was like, yes, me too. My pediatrician actually was like, we're going to put a plaque with your name above it because you're here so much. We're going to name a room after you. And
Wow.
that's, not great. And so I was super, super, super sick as a child, constantly allergies, couldn't walk outside, asthma, everything. And it was, my parents, God bless them, they did the best that they knew how to do. But when I became pregnant with my first son, I was like, I don't want him to be sick like I was. So I started exploring. And back then, this is 1989, there was no internet, there were no podcasts, there were no nothing. It was me and like Dr. Mendelssohn's book on like the floor of a Wegmans upstate New York. And I had a friend who was a colon hydrotherapist who started educating me about natural healing. And it just made so much sense. And so I've been gluten free since, God, 32 years. So
Wow. Gluten-free before gluten-free was a thing.
yeah, I'm the
Wow.
OG. So,
Mm.
I can remember going to restaurant in Tucson, Arizona when I became gluten free and saying, I want the burger, but I don't want a bun. And it was like a thing. The
Yeah.
waiter had to go get the chef. We had to discuss it at the table. I'm like, just put the bun away and just put the burger on the plate and bring me a fork and a knife. It's like, it was so far. And now, you go
Yeah.
and it's like, do you want a gluten-free
Love
bun?
it.
Do you want a grain-free bun? Do you just want lettuce? Like, so
Right.
I've watched, like, yes, we are certainly moving in the right direction. We have a
Yeah.
lot more direction to move into. But I helped heal myself of asthma, of allergies where I couldn't walk out of the house if they were mowing the lawn. I was like, I was done. From hormonal issues, from being overweight, from being depressed, from having addictions, from like, I was deep down the I am not doing well pathway. So
Sure.
I know firsthand, and that's what, really inspired me to go and become a physician and help others. And I wanted to be a naturopathic physician because we have the medical training, and I wanted to be able to go toe to toe, I guess, head to head or toe to toe in a conversation with an oncologist, with a cardiologist, where I could speak the medical language so they knew, like, oh, yeah, this is not someone who doesn't understand medicine. They just have a different viewpoint. And so along the way, I mean, I've been practicing for 23 years. I've made some really nice, not always, right? But, open-minded doctors who maybe don't understand what I do, but they see the results and they respect it, and we can support patients together as a team.
That's amazing. It's incredible. I think that's the dream, right? If we could bring together Western medicine with every other system that exists, then we're creating that perfect harmony, that place where it's one system that it provides support, another, so the patient feels safe, taken care of, because that's kind of
Mhm.
the paradigm we're living in right now. And then you have the best of both worlds. Switching gears, we have talked about India before, and I know you've gone to India.
I
And
have.
Ayurvedic medicine, which is what I love and teach from, changed my life. And I love teaching about the constitutions. As I'm gearing up this year to share my book, I'm ready to teach the doshas from a new, fresh perspective in a new way. And between the doshas, between the ideas of Ayurveda around living a life where we can heal ourselves, we just have to remove all the interferences. That idea of let's detox and release what doesn't work so the body can work is integral. So, will you share your story around finding Ayurveda, studying it, learning about it, so we can geek out on Ayurveda a little bit too?
Gosh, I mean, I can remember like before I decided to go to naturopathic school, like I had all the piles of books because back then, like I didn't have all the windows I have open now. And I had my pile of Ayurveda books. I had my pile of aromatherapy books. I had my pile of Chinese medicine books. I had my pile of massage books. And so I always was just so intrigued by the beauty and the eloquence and the honoring of different traditions and the honoring of we are the elements. And so it was always something that I was like, this has got to be a piece. And so I did do like some studying with a doctor here, and he was out of Maine, Paul. I can't think of his last name. So I took like a whole Ayurveda course with him, and we ended up at his house and cooking khichdi and the different herbal things, and just so amazing. But I went to India and I was there for a couple of months, and I did a stint as a monk for a month in a monastery. And I did some of the, went to the Ganges and saw the Taj. And I was like, I don't like to do touristy things. Like I was on this bus driving on these crazy roads going up to this monastery, like almost to Tibet. It was like the moon. It was northern India. Like it
Okay.
literally looked like the moon. And so but I was so glad I went to the Taj because it was just stunning, is the only word I can use for it. But I then went to southern India to a little town called Hariharpura in Karnataka, probably has a population of 20 or 30, very small town. And um, went to an Ayurvedic master who, again, we stayed, they have a little place like their house. So his mother and his wife cooked for us every day in the tin with the different divider plates. And
Yes.
oh my God, the best food ever. And I'm gluten free. They would make me these red millet dosas and
Nice.
the steamed like in the high pressure steamer, the
Mhm.
vegetables. I mean, I'm like, oh my God, my mouth is watering just thinking of it. And it was so simple, not, fancy. A lot of it was being still and being in your own presence in between the treatments. But of course, there were things stuck up my nose and stuck up my butt, and in the wood cabin with my neck sticking out doing the steaming. And I actually, when I got there to do the Panchakarma, and we were there for 3 weeks doing Panchakarma, I had just come from Nepal, and I was at an elephant sanctuary, and my elephant Puja Kali, I was riding Puja and decided we were in the water and decided to like take the trunk of the elephant's trunk and like spray backwards. I don't know if she thought she was like giving us a bath or playing around, but the
Yeah.
water got like
Yeah.
in my eyes, up my nose, and I got so sick.
Yeah, of course. You have to be so careful in India about the water.
We're so cold. So I arrived at Panchakarma like not
Ready.
feeling well. So we had
Yeah.
to get me feeling well. But I had always had sugar cravings,
Okay.
and I had never had cravings for anything else. It was like, I'll just eat sweet things and that's fine.
Sure.
And after Panchakarma, I mean, many things happened, but something that really stood out to me was my cravings for sugar were gone. And my family was like, "You're putting hot sauce on?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm craving a little spice. I'm craving a little pungent. I'm craving a little tangy. I need some, it just like changed my whole taste palette. And that's
Wow.
something that doesn't usually get discussed too much at the doctor's office. And so to me, that was very indicative of the balance that had entered into my body. And I am definitely overdue to go back and
Me
do
too.
it again. I know you have a baby being born in your book, and I have a 7,000 square foot clinic being born here in Scottsdale. And so getting
Yeah.
away for 3 weeks to do Panchakarma just doesn't seem doable right now. But it's like high on my, you got to go back and do this because it was so powerful and profoundly healing. And there was not a lot of take this, take that. It was,
No,
you
it was
know,
treatment.
a paste. He would come and visit us, the doctor, in the morning and have some little enema or concoction or something ready for us. And then maybe we'd go over to his office during the day, but we would eat slowly and mindfully according to what our constitution needed. And we would meditate. There was a nice little Hindu temple for the community. And so we'd go do puja and ceremony and pray. And it is just definitely, I've had a lot of I've been very fortunate to have a lot of amazing experiences in my life, but that really shaped me and helped me and changed the way I think as a physician.
I love that. I love that. Thank you for sharing that. I have not actually shared on my podcast my experience of doing Panchakarma many times in India. I did it right when I was first going to decide if Ayurveda was something I was going to pursue as a student. And I remember going to these centers like you're talking about, and really you become part of their family, part of their home, because as a
Mm-hmm.
healer, part of how I heal is through food. And then when you talked about sugar, I was like, I wonder if I could take all my clients and just feed them enough Indian food that turns them into salt craving people as opposed to sugar craving people. Because back when I used to do my program post 2020, my membership group, I was like, you guys, why don't you just come to my house? It's so much easier. So they were all local women. 10 of them would come every month and I'd feed them.
Oh my
And I
God.
remember LJ one time, who was in that group, she said, I just want you to know that this girl's going places and she will never be doing this again. Y'all should enjoy the fact that you're being hand served food by Dr. Shivani. And I was like, it's
Mm.
just such a pleasure to get to feed the food that you're constantly talking about. You're talking about spices, super spices, the benefits. And it's like, can I just feed you with it so you understand the the love and the feeling you can have on the inside if you ate like that? Because people don't realize it, because to them it's a recipe versus to me this is love. Food is love. It's what I've always been taught, is how much love you can put into that food, how healing you can make it.
Well, and
So
it
I just love
really, we talk a lot about like food as medicine. But again, I think in our more, functional, it's like sort of secondary, right? We've really still made the pill. Like my dream, if I was going to have a hashtag that trended, it would be not all medicine comes in a pill bottle,
sure.
and even a healthy, even an herb. And like I said, I love them, take them all the time. So,
Me too.
but
I get you.
food is really like it's a foundational piece. It's our fuel, and we can really harness, like you're saying, the love, the energy. I used to go to the Govindas, which is the Hare Krishna temple in Tucson. It was right by where I lived, and as they make the food, they pray over the food, and you can really, it's like you eat the food and it clears your karma. I'm like, well, this is a good deal. And you can really taste the difference. And so anyone listening can start to embrace mindful eating, praying. One of the herbal companies that I work with in Switzerland,
Mm.
I was fortunate enough to go visit their plant.
Yes.
And they have the gardens and then they have the manufacturing, and everyone is in white and no one is talking and everyone is meditating as they are making the herbs and macerating the herbs. We use a spagyric formula.
Yeah.
And these herbs are potent because our intention what's the saying? How you do one thing is how you do everything. And it's not, in Hebrew we say kavanah, it's our intention and the intention we put in. So think about like making an herb and you're like on the line, you're like, "Hey Midge, what you doing today?" And oh my God, I can't believe that, that energy as opposed to reverent energy where you're meditating, where you're and so you can do that with the supplements you take. Like I have
True.
conversations with patients when they're like, "Yeah, I don't want to take this. It's annoying." I'm like, "All right, we either got to get it out or we got to have a mindset shift because when we are taking supplements, we are grateful, we are blessed, we are happy, we are inviting this into our bodies to help heal us." And so
True.
our mindset is, it's a big part of the healing game.
It is. And a lot of times we're doing things kind of like robots. I think we've done that to food. We're like, I eat
Mhm.
for fuel. And I get that mindset every once in a while. Okay, I have to get the 30 grams of protein. Okay, I have to get my fiber.
Mhm.
Okay, I have to get my this. Oh, I have to eat low carb. And then by then, there's no joy in that meal. And so what I've started doing is, yes, I get protein, and I am Indian. Half this dish should be rajma, like the vegetables without the potatoes, since we love cooking all our vegetables, too many potatoes. I'm like, half has to be joyful yumminess that feels nourishing to my body. And then half, fine, I will achieve the goals. But I can't have the goals take all satisfaction and joy and nourishment out of every meal. And then all I feel is empty. Like, what's the point? I feel like we're such empty beings running around and our food supply is questionable. And so that empty feeling leads us to not even caring to take our supplements. We're like, oh, too many supplements to take. I hear people say it a lot, and I created a supplement, so I get it. It is one more on that big list. But if we can shift that and say, okay, well, these are the foundational stacks I take, and this is why, and this is how it's supportive as an adjunct, then I think we can have that other
And
perspective.
I love taking this and I'm grateful for taking this. And when I take my supplements, they're like my little beings. I'm like, thank you, partners. Thank you, teammates, for helping to support and sustain me. And grateful I have the right things that my body needs because, we call them supplements and we do, I have patients who I like to live in a fantasy world too. I love to dream but it's a fantasy that you can get everything from food. You can get a
True.
lot from food and how you prepare it and where the food is coming from and how you ingest it. All super, super, super important. I think we've driven that point home. But the soil's still depleted, the quality. So we still need to supplement. Unfortunately, we can't get what we need just from food anymore. And,
True.
I'm a realist. I don't know if that'll ever change in our lifetimes. I doubt that it will.
I doubt it will either. It's going to take a big resurgence and return to regenerative
Mhm.
farming and us making space for our own gardens and our own food and all those things that matter. But I think people are starting to. That gives me hope. There's a lot of people. I lived at Hippocrates Health Institute once to do a detox because I wanted to keep it local, and then I
Mhm.
kind of just added in all my Ayurveda stuff while I was there because I took my mom there to reverse her diabetes, and they teach you how to grow wheatgrass, how to grow your microgreens, how to grow all these things.
Mhm.
And they show you how easy it is and juicing. So there are ways to bring it back in a achievable way. It's just
Mhm.
about practitioners like you partnering with the patient to understand that importance and prioritize it again.
Yeah, we found a regenerative farm down in Tucson. We're up in the Phoenix area, so a few hours away, but worth the drive. And yeah, I mean, it is important that you really get to know your farmers, that you eat locally, that you eat seasonally, that you pay attention to the elements, the heat, the cold, you know, I think, it's a little cool here today. It's only 110. I'm not having like big, heavy stews. And then
Correct.
vice versa, if it's cold out, having a cold smoothie probably not a good idea either. And then you can also take that to different herbs, which are warming and cooling and spices. And so again, that gets to really the specifics of who are you? Are you, pitta like me? And do you have enough heat already? Do you need more cooling? So it we are bio individuals it's why I say no two patients of mine have the same protocol. They can have the identical diagnoses, but they
Sure.
don't have the same protocol. Other than menopause, where there's a lot of overlap, because menopause is not a disease. Menopause is a natural transition, and root cause is deficiency of hormones. So that's the one area where there is a lot of overlap and things look similar. They're still different. There's still different dosing, different forms, different this. But otherwise, the reason why you have GI distress or you have asthma or you have an autoimmune disease, just like our fingerprints are individual and unique, so are why we express health or why we express imbalance.
Absolutely. What a beautiful way to wrap us today. Thank you, Dr. Sharon. I love talking to you. I love,
Again?
yes, absolutely. Anytime you want. I would love to chat with you again. I would love for you to share with the listener today where they can find you and share about your new amazing center that I cannot wait to see and visit. It sounds
Yes.
incredible.
Yes, you have to come. Our new clinic is called Lasting Wellness Center. If you just put in Dr. Sharon Stills, my website is drstills.com, has been for the last 23 years. So we won't be getting rid of that, but we'll have a new lastingwellnesscenter.com website. I'm on Instagram as Dr. Sharon Stills, and soon to be maybe YouTube and some other places. We'll see. But that's how you can find me. I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona.
Awesome.
And the new center is going to be ginormous. It's 7,000 square feet. And I'm already like, I think we need more room. And it's really just a culmination of my travels across the globe and finding the best of the best, whether it be diagnostics or therapeutics. My eldest son, Dr. Ben, will be practicing there as well. And my younger son, Dylan, runs our clinic. So it's a family affair, which is a
Nice.
lot of fun. And we'll be doing everything from European diagnostics to, traditional diagnostics as well, and therapeutics. My son does a lot of regenerative medicine, and we will just be there to serve. A lot people need a place to come and heal, and we're going to have everything we have EBU, which is ozone dialysis. We're going to get in ionospheresis, which used to only be available in Europe. We do intravenous laser. We do photobiomodulation. We do it all. I've been doing this a long time, and I get bored, so I like to pick up lots of new toys. Doing color puncture. So we'll be using all the things. We have meditation rooms and oxygen bathtubs, and of course your typical cold plunge and sauna and yoni steaming. And so it's going to be a fun place because I think healing should be enjoyable.
Absolutely. I completely agree. Thank you. I cannot wait to see this place. It sounds incredible, so curated, so beautifully thought through to support the patient in a 360 way as opposed to just a top down way. So I'm so excited for you.
Oh, thank you. I can't wait to have you come and play with you there. It'll be a lot of fun.
I can't wait. So, everyone listening to the podcast today, check out Dr. Sharon Stills. Her website is drstills.com. For more information on the podcast, the Fusionary Health Podcast, you can visit shivanigupta.com. And I can't wait to see you on next week's episode. Please share this episode with someone you love who could use this ancient wisdom and naturopathic wisdom that we got to talk about today. Leave a review to help us share this wisdom with the world. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thanks for joining me for this episode. Check out our sponsor, Fusionary Formulas, the potent turmeric supplement used by doctors around the U.S. for patients with pain and inflammation. www.fusionaryformulas.com. I'm your host, Dr. Shivani Gupta. For more, visit shivanigupta.com. Subscribe to this podcast in Spotify or Apple Podcasts. Click the follow button or subscribe in any of the apps that you use. That's all I've got for you on the Fusionary Health Podcast this week. You have the power to transform your health and achieve vibrant health starting today.